If you'd like to own an ultra-fast lens, a lens faster than f1, but one that doesn't cost a fortune, then take a look at this BRIGHTIN STAR 35mm f0.95. It's a lens designed for crop sensors, so it produces an ultra-fast 50 style image with a framing that will be just over 52mm on a full-frame sensor. The lens has received some rave reviews, so I was delighted when BRIGHTIN STAR asked me to try the lens. I've been very curious to see how good this lens really is. I'm not being paid to do the review, but I do get to keep the lens. In this review I'll be considering 3 questions in particular. Firstly, is the lens sharp enough wide open, both close-up and at infinity? Ultra-fast lenses can be rather soft and glowy wide open, so how does this lens perform? I'm including at infinity because it would be a big advantage if you could use the lens wide open or stop down just a little in low light situations with only a limited loss of sharpness. Secondly, does the lens perform well enough stop down to use as a more general walk-around landscape and portrait lens? It's all very well using an ultra-fast lens wide open for extreme bokeh shots, but if it's going to stay in your camera bag for the longer term, you may want it to be more of an all-round good performer. Thirdly, a question I'll be discussing at the end of the video, and that is, do you really need an f0.95 lens? What can it do that slower fast 50s can't do? Before looking at how the lens performs, let's quickly run through the user experience and specs. Physically, when you unpack the lens from its box, it looks and feels like a really solidly built piece of gear. The body is metal and heavy, but not overly heavy. It weighs 386 grams. I like the typeface and design of the numbering and lettering. It looks very elegant to me. A nice touch is that the lens comes with 2 lens caps, a metal cap and a plastic clip-on cap. The manual focus ring is a good size and well damped. The clipped aperture ring at the front is easy to locate if you're looking at your subject rather than the lens. One feature of the ring is how many clicks you need to go through from wide open to fully stopped down at f16. Not a problem, but it's one consequence of using a lens that starts as fast as 0.95. In terms of the specs, the lens has 11 elements in 8 groups, with 12 rounded aperture blades. I'll return to the blades in a moment. The minimum focusing distance is 0.37 meters, and while this is not in the macro lens territory, it's close enough to be able to exploit the ultra-fast speed with wafer-thin depths of field. The lens is sold in different mounts, and this particular lens has a Sony E mount. I've been using the lens on a Sony a7 Mark IV and a Sony a6000. On the a7 Mark IV, I've obviously got the option of using the camera's full frame mode, or its 1.5 times crop mode, at the flick of a button. Here's the result with the lens stopped down on full frame. And here's the result on the crop mode. The interesting thing about full frame versus crop is if you use the full frame mode and then crop off the vignetting on the corners in post-processing, then you can actually get a noticeably wider angle view than you do using crop. I really like the full frame view from the lens, so I sometimes deliberately kept the camera on full frame mode and then cropped later. Or sometimes I didn't crop at all if the edges of the composition were dark enough. The lens's aperture blade design really helps to keep the out of focus highlights nice and smooth as you click down the aperture. As you can see, you can stop down a lot and the bubbles retain their smooth edges. Well, as I've started showing you some bubble bokeh images, I'll continue with this theme. If you like bubble bokeh, this lens produces lovely big and beautiful bubbles wide open close up. The bubbles are clean, they don't have lines around the edges, and I like their oval shapes away from the center. I've got quite a few different examples of the lens's bubble bokeh rendering in still photographs. And in videos, it's an excellent lens for these kinds of effects. Moving away from bubble bokeh, you can have a lot of fun producing ultra-smooth blur shots with less busy backgrounds. Or you can play with the blur effects of much busier backgrounds. The extremely narrow depth of field at f0.95 makes it quite a challenge to focus accurately on the right area. So it helps to have digital focusing aids to zoom right into the area you're trying to focus on. When you do nail the focus, this lens is amazingly center sharp wide open. I say amazingly sharp because compared to my Tomioka 55 f1.2 wide open, for example, the BRIGHTIN STAR is in a different class. It's way sharper. Not just pure sharpness, but it also has far less ghosting around in-focused objects, ghosting that can distract from a sharper look. I'd say this is one of the few lenses that I'd be happy to use wide open most of the time for close-up bokeh shots. You don't need to stop down to sharpen up in-focus areas, unlike many other ultra-fast lenses. If you needed to stop the lens down a little, the main reason would be to increase the depth of field and get more of the image in focus, if you feel that produces a better composition. And if you do stop down to f1.4 or f2 or whatever, you won't lose those round bokeh bubbles, as we've already seen. I found the lens is reasonably contrasty wide open. It's not one of those ultra-fast lenses that invariably wash out the contrasts. The lens does flare, as you'd expect, if you point it straight at the sun, and the images can become blown out. In terms of flares or light leaks from the side, I always used a hood with the lens, because the lens can still flare, and that's something to watch out for, but it's not a big deal. You can definitely see green and purple fringing in extreme situations. But the lens is well behaved most of the time, and the fringing is nothing you can't deal with in post-processing. So far I've been concentrating mostly on close-up shots, so what about the sharpness and contrasts wide open at longer distances? I took the lens on a trip to London's Science and Natural History museums where the exhibits are often rather dimly lit. Here the advantages of this ultra-fast lens really shone. It performed very well in bringing out the details in sharp focus, without, for example, having to worry about camera shake. And outside, taking wide open shots at infinity, the lens performed surprisingly well. Other ultra-fast lenses I've used wide open simply can't produce these levels of details. They're much softer. It's a lens good enough to use confidently wide open when you need to. Given its focal length on crop sensors, the lens is also a good head and shoulders portrait lens. I've got some, how can I put it, less conventional wider open portraits to show you, starting with this dodo. This is not an easy bird to photograph. Firstly, it's extinct. But more to the point, this stuffed animal is behind glass, not particularly well lit, and it's always caused me problems. But the lens absolutely aced this shot, which is straight out of camera. Here are a couple more museum portraits. And some portraits closer to home. I think these are excellent results wide open, handheld, given the available light. I've not taken any photos of family groups with the lens indoors yet, for instance, but I'm sure it'll be good at that too. And now onto the lens's stop-down performance. Given the lens is center sharp right from the start wide open, it's no surprise to find it delivers excellent sharpness as you stop down. Looking at the edge-to-edge sharpness of the test shots, the lens does well. Details and overall rendering are good. The lens's coatings struggle a little with very bright contrasts. This temple in Chiswick House Gardens is rather overexposed, and stopping down doesn't help much, so you need to be careful of high contrast situations, stop down. Having said that, these shots in harsh winter light have come out well. Looking at the colours, when I first started using the lens with auto exposure settings, I thought the lens produced quite warm, rich colours. However, when I've had the chance to use the lens in different situations top down, I think these rich colours are more a consequence of my camera slightly underexposing shots. So a shot like this, produced with auto exposure, looks like this when I override the auto settings. Using the lens as a walk-around landscape lens, the only downside, I think, is it's not a natural 35mm lens. It's 35mm cropped, so the angle of view is limited. But as I demonstrated at the beginning of the video, you can always take photos on full frame sensors and crop out the vignetting, giving you a wider angle than the standard 1.5 times crop. So to conclude, I'll answer the first two questions I asked at the start of the video. Firstly, is the lens sharp enough wide open, both close-up and at infinity? And the answer to this question is a resounding yes. This lens is sharp enough wide open. Indeed, it's a very impressive performer. Secondly, does the lens perform well enough stop down to use as a more general walk-around landscape and portrait lens? And the answer again is yes, the only caveat being the 35mm angle of view on a cropped sensor. This brings us on to the third question I asked. What does an f-stop of 0.95 bring to the table that a slower fast 50 can't? It's a more debatable issue, so I'll tell you my views, and it would be great if you add your own views in the comments below the video. I'll start by saying that owning an f0.95 lens does give you significant bragging rights. This is a seriously fast lens. And it's not an expensive lens for what you get. Indeed, I'd say it's excellent value for money if you're after an ultra-fast lens. I spent a considerable amount of money, a lot more money than this new lens costs, on my Tomioka-made 55mm f1.2 lens, and really the BRIGHTIN STAR is a much better performer wide open. Don't get me wrong, I like the softness and the imperfections of the Tomioka, but sometimes I wish it was a little cleaner and sharper wide open, with less glow around the in-focus areas. So I think this is a great value for money lens, and compared to old lenses, it's amazingly sharp wide open. But there's also the issue of the artistic merits of using such an ultra-fast lens. Does it, for instance, improve the quality of the out-of-focus rendering? Are the out-of-focus areas noticeably smoother and creamier than a slower fast 50? Well, I think most of us know that even an f4 macro lens can produce super smooth rendering close up. So in this sense, pure speed is a bit of an irrelevance. I'm not going to claim that you can 100% produce more artistic images with this lens compared to a slower fast 50. However, the lens did take some shots wide open that I like a lot, and I feel demonstrate very well the benefits of pure speed. And with slightly further away shots, especially in dim light, extra speed can be a distinct advantage. This is a lens that I'll definitely be taking on future family holidays, city breaks, and trips around museums. It's a keeper. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do, as it helps my channel. Until the next time, all the best.